Hey everybody, today I want to talk about a new technology for game development that a lot of people are comparing to things like the iPad and the iPhone, or just new platforms that have come out that are huge and enormous. I think there's even comparisons from the ex-Unity or interim Unity CEO to TikTok and just how popular it is because of stuff that this new technology enables for video game developers. And that technology is WebGPU, which allows you to do web-based games, well, really regular games that you wouldn't think of as web-based games in a browser. And today I wanted to learn a little bit more about this stuff. So I decided to interview a couple of developers who are building their own WebGPU powered browser, or a browser that allows you to really excel with WebGPU games and push the limits, called Ray Browser. We're going to, in this discussion, talk about why this is interesting, how it can actually be useful for you, how you go about integrating it, what the limitations are and what you can actually do with it. And we even talk a little bit about the networking side and monetization stuff. So if you're building video games and you think maybe new opportunities or being on the next thing that might compete with Steam is interesting, then make sure you hang around. And if you've got thoughts or questions about this stuff, make sure that you drop them in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe before we get started. All right, so let's get started. I wanted to quickly say thank you guys both for being here. Thanks. This is the team from Ray Browser. By the way, if you're watching, if you're a game developer and you've got a game that you think might do well on a browser platform, especially after listening to this conversation, make sure that you go to playonray.com/devs. I'll link that down in the description. You can sign up and join the Discord and start to get early access and inside information on all of this stuff and be one of the first people getting your game out on this awesome new platform. So check that out. And again, thanks guys. Let's get started. But I think we should probably just jump over to the intro and what Ray is and why you built it. Because I mean, everybody keeps talking about WebGPU now. Luckily, like crypto stuff is no longer the thing everybody's focused on, and now it's WebGPU, which I think everybody that I've talked to sees and understands a value for. Like most things come up, even like AI stuff, there's a lot of debate on it. But with WebGPU, I don't know anybody that doesn't see a value for it. I think they're all just kind of trying to figure out exactly where it lands and how the kind of marketplace ends up. But can you talk about maybe what it is you're doing there, why you got into it, and what maybe your vision for WebGPU stuff is long term? I'm really curious.
I can talk about this a bit. I started my career in the late 90s as a web designer, and it feels like I've been fighting for the web platform all of my career. Since 2005, we've been working on kind of progressive web apps and complicated things on the web. And we think web is a great application platform, basically. Like 2005, we had a startup called Spice Music, which was like GarageBand, except in the browser. And already back then we saw that it's a great workflow for multiplayer, multi-user social things. Like if you think about it, like after Gmail hit the scene, like whoever installed a mail client again. And, when Google Docs came, who is installing Microsoft Word anymore? Because you can, the web workflow is obviously much better for collaborating. Like you send the URL and everybody can collaborate. And when it's done, you can just send it to the client and so on and so forth. And similarly, we think web is a great platform for multiplayer games for just exactly those same reasons. Like it's, ease of access, ease of publishing. It's a win-win for the users and for the developers. And, for a while there, like 15 years ago, web games were a thing. There were a lot of games on the web, the Flash era. And Flash was a pretty interesting tool for making games, maybe not the best, but, people could do like fun games and there was a thriving scene. And then basically what happened was, this is famous history, but basically when Steve Jobs killed Flash, like, Apple had come up with the first iPad, and all of us who were doing Flash apps, we were like, yes, this is the best platform for Flash. And finally, our Flash games get this audience from the iPad. And then Apple was like, nope, no Flash on the iPad. It's draining battery. It's a closed system. But really, I think what was going on was politics, and it was in Apple's interest to launch the App Store. They really want you to download the apps from the App Store. And similarly, Google is doing the same with the Play Store. And I think it was very attractive for developers too for a while there, because on the web we didn't have good systems to do, for example, monetization. Like there wasn't great, today we have payment platforms like Xsola and Firstspring and whatnot, Neon. But back then that didn't exist. So it was really easy to publish your game on the app stores, on mobile, and you would have easy ways to monetize. So it was working great for a while there for everyone. And the web gaming kind of whizzled out, and it became like this wasteland of, cheaply produced games that don't really have really very casual. They just want you to refresh the page all the time because they're serving you ads. And this was like, it ruined the perception of web gaming. And web gaming became like synonymous for like ad infested, crappy games. And this went on for a long time. And, but now we have this new technologies coming to the browser. We have the WebGPU API, we have WebAssembly, and we have Web Transport, which is also allowing for better networking. So now, like, the tech stack is kind of there for the browser in general. Like now, nobody has really done this yet, but if you would take advantage of all of those things, like WebGPU, Web Transport, WebAssembly, you could actually make really good looking, nicely performant games on the web. And this is kind of where the idea for Ray Browser was born. Like we had been working on, in our previous company, we were doing web-based VR, web VR. I think we were the first web VR startup in the world. And the reasoning was similar. Like we felt that VR was going to be a lot more than just games. It was going to be like art, architecture, animal videos. And those are just the things that start with an A. So, and the idea is that, if you're going to have hundreds of architecture visualizations, you don't want to install each and every one of those on your computer. It makes much more sense to have this content, as links, and you could just, go to social media, click on a link, and you would be there, or email the link. And similarly, if you think of like commercial applications, like storefronts, like virtual storefronts, or like what have you, like, they shouldn't be apps. They should live on the web. And during that era, we were creating content creation tools for web VR. And basically what we found was that WebGL and WebGL2 were kind of giving us problems, and the web platform in general. Like we couldn't do everything we wanted, and the web standards committees were kind of moving pretty slowly. And so we wanted to move faster. We wanted to make 3D a first-class citizen in the browser. So back then we were thinking that if we had our own browser, we could actually kind of leapfrog these limitations and actually show, the real power of the web platform if these kind of outdated APIs weren't limiting us. And that's why in 2022, me and my co-founder Jaakko, we decided that, hey, now is the time to do the browser company, because now we have all these cool APIs, and we thought that the timing is great. And similarly, at the same time, we found out that actually many game developers, we talked to a lot of developers, and we found that there is a lot of interest now for actually publishing on the web. Like a lot of developers are super interested in this at the moment. And we went to GDC a couple of months ago, or when was it? Also, we met there, Jason, right?
Yeah, it was like a month ago, and I saw a ton of web stuff, a lot of web gaming stuff. Like I said, no Bitcoin related stuff at all. It was all like web gaming and new AI stuff. So it seems big, and I know a lot of people that are really interested. And I think people would be interested to know like kind of what the limitations and types of games are that can be on it. Because I mean, it seems like that has changed drastically.
I think right now, like with the new Unity 6, we're going to have access to the WebGPU exporter for the first time. So now we think like if you take advantage of everything Unity is now offering in the WebGPU export, and you also take into account everything we are doing at the Ray browser, we can now actually create some really good looking, greatly performing flagship content on the web. So I think in the next 12 months, you are going to see games running in the browser, and you will think like, whoa, is this really running in the browser? Really? So we think this is now happening, and we talk to a lot of developers, and we know that there is a lot of excitement and a lot of cool content upcoming in the next 1-2 years.
Nice. Yeah, so everybody that's watching this, I'm sure, is a developer. If they want to do like their own games and maybe take something they've already got, put it onto web and make it a web GPU thing, or they've got an idea for it, what's kind of the process that you recommend they go about? Is it like just take it and switch over and hit export and you're done and it just magically works, or you kind of like go through a plan for that and all?
If you're using a middleware software such as Unity, yeah, definitely. I'm pretty sure it'll be a rough first couple of months, of course, as they try to stabilize it. The same when Vulkan was first released as an exporter for Unity. But on the other hand, the benefits are going to be massive. As an example, compute shaders is one of the things that most modern games require for good performance, and WebGL2 just does not support it. Your your animated characters in Unity are all going to be running on the CPU in WebGL2, or well, you can hack it around with textured data buffers and stuff, but that's really old school way of doing things. But Unity already has GPU skinning, and that's through the compute shader, where all these characters are being done on the GPU, and that should just work out of the box. That's free performance right there. But that's the difference between a couple of really high quality characters on your screen and potentially hundreds of them.
So we think, if it's a Unity game, then I think you have pretty good chance of success with this. I mean, Unity is currently the only major game engine that has web export, like Godot and Unreal do not. So I think it's going to be a big advantage for actually Unity that they have this and they're focusing on this right now. And basically what developers should do is that they should actually, hit export and see what happens. And if it does not work, what they should do is they should contact us. We can definitely help. And we have been helping various studios already because, we have very much vested interest in this. We really want to see web platforms succeed. And I think Unity is feeling the same. So I think they are going to also provide support. So I think if you think you have a game that would thrive on the web, and I think especially if you have like a multiplayer game, I think it would be a good idea to just load it up in Unity, hit export, and see what happens.
One of the other value propositions of developing for the web as well, especially for developers. I've been my entire career in small studios, medium-sized studios, and done consultancy on various projects as well. And what has happened throughout the 15, almost 20 years of my career, the budget for game development has skyrocketed from maybe $1 million 20 years ago that you could pump out a game with to 10 million, maybe 5 to 10 years ago. And now it's already going into the multiples as well if you start factoring marketing and stuff. The web is, I don't know if you remember, but like a decade ago, there was this catchphrase of the web as a platform. And WebGPU is something that might actually enable developers to just target wherever a browser runs, and then it just automatically works on your phone or your desktop. It doesn't matter if it's a Linux or a Mac OS, because if you target our browser engine, obviously it's going to just work. You just have to target one platform instead of many different small ones. And then whenever bugs do appear for like divergences between platform, it's our fault. We have to fix it, not you guys. But also, as the browser itself behaves more like a driver, that means that as we update our browser rendering engine, you get free performance increases over the years without having to update your games.
I guess I didn't really explain what Ray is, so I think it would be good to just kind of tell you a little bit about that. So Ray is a browser. It's based on Chromium, and we have basically refocused the whole UI of Chromium on gaming. So it's a browser designed solely for the purpose of playing 3D multiplayer games. This is the idea. And we have designed it for, gaming audience, kind of young, 13 to 18-year-olds is basically our kind of sweet spot. And the whole thing has been designed for gamers. So you can play your game, and then we have integrated apps like, Snapchat, TikTok, Discord. So we made it really easy to be on Discord while you play, and we made it really easy to snap with your friends while you play. And we've done a lot of research on how to make the games faster. Jesse's tools are helping with that, and stuff we also want to do is kind of, Ray will preload the assets of your games, so they will actually load faster also. So we're doing a bunch of stuff because what we can do, because we are focusing on gaming, and that's something the other browsers won't do because they are generalist. Chrome has 2 billion users, so they're not gonna make sure that your Unity game is perfectly optimized. But because we are focusing on gaming, we can actually take the time and help the studios and make sure that they can really succeed on the web.
Yeah, it's one of those, being focused on gaming actually gives a couple of advantages as well. Obviously, we still have the entire browser works like a normal browser, as you would expect. But because we are solely focused on giving a quality experience for gaming, we can do stuff that normal browsers can't. For example, one of the problems that we always hear with deploying bigger games on the web, I recently saw a WebGPU exporter test for Unreal Engine, and all the developers commenting on it were saying the exact same things. What about load times? What about time to get there? And it's a huge concern. So streaming assets becomes a huge concern, something we're definitely looking into providing. But also, what if you navigate to various websites and now the browser cache decides, well, this 500 megabyte game you just played an hour ago, that's really big. I'm going to purge that from the cache. So making sure that you can decide as a user to install games you play a long time and keep that constantly in the cache as well, as a sort of, pseudo virtual file system, which is going to be handy. And then with the same concept, we can have games provide updates in the background when the browser launches, instead of, oh no, I've just gone on to, for example, Stumble Guys, and new update is out. I'm just gonna wait for the download to complete. I mean, they develop it to be fast, but maybe if the browser could, lower the friction area there, that could give a really great experience for users.
Yeah, and worth mentioning that if your game runs on the web, it will run on Ray. So the devs don't have to do anything special to be on Ray. Just do your web export, and then we will make sure that the experience is the best it can be.
Yeah, the basic mentality is that games that currently run on the web should always work on Ray. But obviously, if you are going to use our specific APIs for like wallet services or whatever, that's going to be a bit different. You're going to have to give a implementation on whatever other browsers out there. But
Now, yeah, on that, the last one I was curious about was this transport, the network transport that you had mentioned is something that's new to me. I didn't know about it. So I would love to hear a little bit more about what's going on there and how that is implemented. Like, has that something that just automatically happens, or is there a process for that, or is it something that's kind of in the works and coming soon?
Yeah, so this is something on the works. I think nobody has utilized this in perfection yet, but like the long-term goal is that, we would love to see esports being played in the browser. So you should be able to do similar latency as is required for like high tempo tactical shooters. And previously on the web, that wasn't really possible. I'm not a tech guy, but, there were old technologies like WebRTC and whatever, and you could do multiplayer, but you couldn't really do like super low latency esports. But now we think with all this new technology, and especially with improvements we can do in Ray in particular, we think this is possible in the coming years.
To extend a little bit on that as well, when talking about latency and performance, one of the advantages, as again, Ray being a browser, but also primarily aimed towards games, as we will be publishing premium titles on our platform. Unlike other browsers out there, we can give these premium titles what is considered more of a privileged execution context. You know that the browser has various security layers built in, sandboxing, to make sure that whatever website you visit is good, isn't going to hijack your computer. But obviously, when you are a trustworthy developer working with us, we have pathways to break through those abstraction layers, giving you performance that usually you wouldn't be able to get, because you're now going to be running way more on a native level than you would normally do if you were just a normal website. It is one of the advantages.
Okay. All right, everybody. At the end of the conversation, I did say goodbye to them, and it was actually a lot of fun. I really enjoyed chatting with these guys, and I really wanted to just cut it here so that I could just tell everybody to go in and sign up. Go to playonray.com/devs, put in your email, join the Discord, start to follow along and see what's going on here. You may very well have a game that fits in perfectly here, and this could be a great opportunity. I always tell people, get into new markets, get into new devices, new places, new platforms as early as possible. You never know what's going to blow up and be the next big new thing. So go check it out. It's playonray.com/devs. And if you've got questions, of course, you can ask them or drop them down in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them as well. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And yeah, that's all.